Alright, greets peeps, we are back, and we are going to run through what I'm going to term the toolbar down the side. I've just been through this, and realized that I missed the very first one. So let's have a look at the government up the top. Government doesn't have a shortcut that I'm aware of. If ever I need to go into that window, I do it up here. The government window shows us our leader, shows us the name, the species, and therefore the traits, the skill level and the effect of those skill levels, and the traits. Earlier you will have heard me mention that he had good traits. He makes our outposts much cheaper to build, which is great. And he makes all of our buildings and districts build quicker and cheaper. So that's just superb. He's a very excellent leader, and he has got he gives us longer edicts and more unity each month, which is superb. The other stuff we can see in here is the ethics that we chose, the civics that we chose when we were creating everything, what our national agenda is. So our national agenda is national purity, which gives us a bonus to influence and a bonus to xenophobe ethics attraction, which isn't great. We don't want people going towards xenophobe because we're not xenophobes. It's actually a bit of a pain in the butt, but we can get to that later on. That's to do with factions. Because we've got a dictatorship, he's going to rule until he dies. So he's 42 at the moment. The life expectancy in this game, I believe the default is 90, and after that we'll expect him to die. But I think they can. Oh, can they die earlier than that? Without events? I'm not sure. I don't rightly know. Anyways, Galactic Doorstep was the thing. Oh, that's a point. I went through all of the stuff in our system and I didn't explain our Galactic Doorway. So I'll explain that after this, I suppose. Our diplomatic weight is a thing that we can come back to later. The diplomatic weight, the more diplomatic weight we have, it's going to affect our interactions with other species, other empires, but we can investigate that in a second. If we want to change our civics, that's done in this window here. The Reform Government button allows us to swap one of these out for another. So we'd uncheck the one we don't want and check the one we do want. We'd reform by pressing that button, and it would cost us 250 influence. And you can't do it immediately anyway. You need to wait 20 years. It's not something that I regularly do, but I guess there's potentially reasons you could need to do it. I haven't found those myself. Oh, and you can also change your government type in here when you're doing that as well. So we're restricted from having a democracy because of our authoritarian ethic, but we could do it. We could go to the other types if we wanted. Modifiers show in there. Modifiers, sorry, show in here. Relations show in here. We haven't met anyone, so we can't see relations. And the only modifiers we have are our agenda that our emperor has put, our dictator has put in place. Demographics shows us things about our species, our population growth speed, our happiness, our biological pop growth speed and pop growth speed. Don't know why those should be different. It may be for machine species, I guess, but we're playing without DLC, so we don't see them. And ethics attraction, yep, we don't see that either. We will maybe come back to this in a wee bit. Situation log. Oh, sorry. Contacts is the next of our of the buttons in our toolbar. Contacts shows us all sorts of information about the other empires that we've encountered, and also non-affiliated groups. So we might be talking about marauding space pirates, or we might be talking about trade leagues, or caravaneers, or species who live between the stars, or there's all sorts of stuff that can be in here. What we'll see, the columns that we see are their opinion of us, the status, whether we've got some sort of political agreement with them, whether that be positive or negative, our relative power, whether they're stronger or weaker than us, our or whether they're part of a federation or not, and whether we are at war with them. We'll go into this once we've got some more details, once we've met some other empires. Situation log, anomalies, and victory points are all seen in here. At the moment, we are not going to win. Someone else is going to win. We're 22nd in the galaxy. Unidentified empire would win the game in 2500 if nothing changes. Situation log shows special interests, special projects or events, and anomalies shows weird things that we need to go out and investigate. The market is accessed. Usually I access it up here, but it can be accessed through here. It's used to trade one type of goods for another. We'll see plenty of that in the game, so I won't go into it too deeply. Automatic trades can be set up here, so that you can set an automatic trade to buy or sell a given good for a given amount per unit. Kind of clunky way of doing it. And the total change is shown there, and those trades happen automatically per month if the conditions that you've set are met. Planets and sectors shows us a list of our various sectors. We've only got the one sector at the moment, and our one sector only has the one planet in it at the moment. We can use this window to do some automation of the systems in sectors. It's an absolutely terrible way of doing things, because you're never going to have a sector dedicated to doing one thing. Well, you could, but you'd need to micro it very hard, and that doesn't make sense, because every planet is going to have a different makeup. You're going to want to optimize the planet itself as opposed to the sector that it's in. It's not a very good system. The sector system is kind of junk, if I'm honest. They've tried to make it better, and they've done some improvements, but it's basically, yeah. We'll have a look at it when we've got some more planets and see if we can find some good to be had in there. The next button we've got is the expansion planner. There's nothing we can see in there at the moment, so we'll come back to that once we've got some expanding to do. Policies are set in here. There used to be one policy that I would set at the beginning of every game. That would be the policy that would set the amount of food which is provided to our population, and thereby the amount of population increase we'd expect, because everyone's got lots of food. They like to propagate the species. That's no longer in here, so I'm not really sure how or where or if that is dictated by policies. That's the policies and the edicts, our next button, have both changed a lot in the Wells update, in the Wells patch. So we'll be finding out about both of these together. At the moment, I've had a look through here, and there's no policies that I can see that I want to change. But what will typically happen is, in about 10 years' time, we'll have some special interest groups, some factions will start forming up around various leaders within the game, within our leader pool, and they'll want to do different things. They'll want our empire to change in different ways, depending on their political leanings. We can examine that as when they happen, but we'll be going in here to try and appease them by changing our policies to reflect their ideals. Edicts, yep, we've got very few of them, so we'll have to look at those later on. The traditions and relics I typically access through the Unity button. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different types of tradition trees. Once you tradition trees, we'll go into a little bit later on once we've got some Unity to spend on them. But for the moment, they're fine. Oh, sorry, I should explain that once you finish out one of these tradition trees, you unlock an ascension perk, and your ascension perks give your empire cool powers. It's another nice level of customization for a given empire. The ship designer is really fun and really tricky to explain. Once we've got some more technology, maybe some more ship types, we'll come in here and we'll have a look at the ship designer. For the moment, we can ignore them. You can safely ignore these in your early games. It's not vital, but it's really fun and really interesting, and allows you to customize things in a really cool way to deal with individual enemies. It's great fun. The fleet manager allows you to. We actually saw the fleet manager in passing previously. By when I clicked on our fleet and I pressed this button, I opened up the fleet manager, and it allows us to control at a glance our entire navy. Typically you'll have, towards the end of the game, you'll have several fleets usually, and you'll want to be doing different things with them, but in the meantime we can skip by that until we've got some more to do there. The technology window is maybe the second most useful window after the, or second most regularly visited window after the market window, perhaps more. Similar utility in these windows. The technology window shows us what we're researching in the physics realm, what we're researching in the society sphere, what we're researching in the engineering sphere. We click this button and we choose from a list of research options, but we'll come back to those in a minute because we've already got these notifications about those, and we'll look at them in our next video. Factions are shown in here. I mentioned factions before, and I mentioned how they will have their own political leanings. Those are the ethics that we chose at the beginning of the game. Just because we chose ethics for our species or for our empire doesn't mean that's true of the species. So we're going to get people who, as we saw, get drawn to different ideologies. We've got at the moment people being drawn towards xenophile. So what I'd expect in about 10 years when we see some factions appear is that we'll have a percentage of our population that is... there we go. So we can already see that 14% of our pops currently embrace this ethic. But it has 0 attraction value. I think that's an artifact of the maths, a bit of the number of people that we've got in our species. I'd expect us to have more than 10 though. Yeah. We'll have a look at it a bit later on. It's not particularly important. All we need to know is that we want to keep our factions happy, but we'll look at factions a bit later on. The claims button allows us to put claims on other species, on other empires, but we can't see any of those at the moment, so we'll leave that for the time being. The species button does the same thing as clicking on the population button up the top. It shows us the species that are at the moment within our empire. All of the species in our empire are shown here. All of the species in the... that's right. All of the species in the galaxy are shown by pressing toggle species. And somehow we know that these guys exist. And if they were to join our empire, we'd treat them as slaves. But I've no idea what that's about. That's just strange. As far as I'm aware, in-game at the moment, The Tutorian species don't know any other species. We are the only sentient life in the galaxy, and long may that continue, says our authoritarian rulers. We can set rights in here. Setting rights allows us to dictate what kind of, how happy a species will be, basically. It'll also dictate how much resources they will use. If we have a look at slaves, oh yeah, no, we can't. Once we can see some more species, we'll investigate the species window a bit deeper. But there's a fair bit to do in here, and it's quite cool. And our last tab, our last button in the toolbar, is our Leaders tab. Our Leaders tab tells us about the people that we've put in positions of power throughout our empire. There is one more leader that we haven't that isn't shown there. That's our Emperor, but or our Emperor or President or Oligarch or Dictator. Well, Dictator is what this guy should be. I don't know why exactly he's called Imperator. But apart from him, the other leaders are shown in the leaders window. We've got governors, scientists, admirals, and generals. We've only need of one governor at the moment. A governor owns a sector, and a sector is a group of planets. A group of solar systems, of star systems, within 4 jumps. So 4 jumps, 3 jumps. Oh, I'm not sure now. 3 jumps, I think. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So the sectors are quite large, especially because I've turned on the maximum number of connections. Yeah, our sectors are going to be big boys in this game, and they're going to be perfectly circular. Ordinarily, you wouldn't see near this number of hyperlanes, but because I turned it as high as it would go, this is the result, and it's interesting to see. It's going to be an interesting game. We won't be able to lock out anyone, so we've detracted from some of the strategy, which is a shame. I may actually go back and turn that off, because it's going to be tricky to explain strategy when there is no blocking off of anything. Anyways, back to the Leaders tab. In the Leaders tab, we can see our governor. Yes, he controls a sector. Every planet within that sector will get whatever bonus he has. He has a really cool bonus of intellectual, which gives a bonus to all of our researchers, whether they're researching engineering, physics, or society. When we look at the planet, we'll see that that's everyone. Well, sorry, no, that's a terrible thing, a terrible way to say it. But this is a really good bonus to have early on. And because he's got that bonus, I'm probably going to... Because he's got that bonus and our species has a research bonus, I'm going to make us go down a research-heavy build on our for our society. He also has a skill level like our ruler did, and his skill level boosts the resources from pops, the empire sprawl from pops, and the amount of crime that we have on a given planet. Our scientists, I'll go through these guys. Generals we assign to armies. We have no armies at the moment, but generals will give a general will give an army a perk, and that will increase their fighting efficiency most of the time. Our leaders can get negative perks, but by and large they're positive perks. The same applies for admirals. They'll usually make the fleet cheaper or faster or stronger or more resilient. But we'll see plenty of those through our playthrough. And our scientists. Our scientists are a super important resource. They do a super important job. They all have their own types of perks, where this guy had one of the governed perks, which is intellectual. These guys will have researcher or scientist perks, like gaining experience quickly, or knowing how to do a specific type of research, or living a long time, or knowing how to do all types of research. There's lots of different traits, and these are quite important, and they dictate what you want to do with your scientists. But what you will notice is that we saw only 3 before. Those were the scientists assigned to the various spheres of research. There was 1 extra dude. He is busy commanding Jureus. And Jureus, I happen to know, is a science ship, one of our non-military ships, one of our civilian ships. So we'll wrap this one up here, and we'll come back to civilian ships on the next session, which I've got to do some stuff, but it won't be too far away. So I'll see you then.